I was the product of a teen pregnancy. My biological parents were 14 and 15 years old, respectively. I was extremely blessed because my grandmother reached out to my biological father. I mean, my father who raised me. That's the only dad I know. I come along, and I was a week old when I came into their home. And when my grandmother called back, she was like, well, we're ready for him. And he said, well, if it's okay with you, we'd like to raise him as our own son. And so they opened their hearts to me, and man, I don't know any different. That was as real as a father and mother as you could possibly have. So that was the beginning of my story. My dad was a bivocational minister. He was a pastor, but he was also a professional chauffeur. He drove for one of the wealthiest families in San Francisco, so he was required to, dress like a chauffeur. He had the chauffeur's cap and everything, and he looked the part. And but he was such a man's man. He was a powerful, very strong, foreboding figure. Um, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Um, a father should phantom his children. And what I mean by that, his very presence should overshadow them, and that they ought to flourish in his shadow. And that's pretty much what, my father set an environment and made it possible for us to flourish. He was a provider, he was a priest, he was the prophet of our home, he was a protector, and he was the punisher. He could he was good at applying the Board of Education to the seat of higher learning. And man, there was just so many things. How he dressed, how he carried himself. He could shake up my whole school because he dressed like Elliot Ness. He had a overcoat. He had a fedora hat. Was always in a suit. He looked like an untouchable. And when I'd be cutting class, back behind a building, smoking dope or whatever, one of my friends would come running. He was like, "Man, your father is walking this campus." I'd be like, "Oh no, no!" I had to put out whatever it was, or drop the dice, do whatever it was, and I'd have to get to class. I'd bust into class, I had my book, and the teacher would be surprised that I showed up, and I'd be sitting up, just looking like I was studious. Man. But, it was just the way that he carried himself. It wasn't an arrogance, but it was a level of confidence. He knew who he was, and he knew what was important. The most powerful time that I've ever had was with my oldest son. He has two little boys now, and graduated and got his degree and is in, practice as a doctor of psychology with an emphasis in family therapy and, the whole nine. But he came to me, he said, Dad, I really want to thank you. He said, I didn't always understand why you did what you did. He said, but I'm so glad you did what you did. He said, I'm glad that you were hard on me, that you wouldn't take mediocrity, that you wouldn't accept it, that when I wanted to take an easy language in high school, you made me take French. And he had the opportunity to utilize it when he took his wife to Paris. So, and he said to me these words, he said, I want to raise my sons like you raised me. Man, that's what every parent is looking for. I did something right. I did something right.
Hello, my name is Michael Anderson, producer with Heroes of a Thousand Faces. Thank you for taking the time to watch these motivating videos. Our hopes are that these videos will inspire you and young men in our community. Join the conversation. Follow us on social media and also on our website, 1000heroes.net.